And I had felt used, I had felt manipulated. I was like, God, why did you let this happen to me? I prayed to you the entire time. I asked questions the entire time, like I wanted to know more. I was willing to do what you wanted. I was humble in your presence. I was so focused on you, and you still let this happen to me. Why? And I was so and I was so sad. I felt so bad. I had so many questions, and he was praying for me, and he said, you know what, God will give you instant healing. That's what he said. God will give you instant healing today. And so I accepted that, and I just cried. I remember just crying the entire video call, while we were praying. I was just crying the entire time because I felt it so deep in my spirit that I was used and manipulated by this thing. And he saw it because my husband is a very prophetic man. We were praying, and at this point I was going through a process of deliverance, and my husband was praying, and my husband is a prophetic man, so he was seeing things and telling me, this is why these things were happening to you, and that's why this was happening to you. And I was just going through this process of just pain, because I'm like, God, like, we've been through this, and I just don't know why this happened. But he was telling me, it's okay, like, sometimes these things happen, and I was going through this and this, and he said something about, at a point, I went into a place of obsession, because God showed me, or God wanted me to be with someone, and then the enemy used somebody else's face to show me that it's this person when it was not. And when I say the enemy, I mean the devil. Reflected somebody else's face. And then at a point I was praying on it, and it went through a process, and then it went into obsession. So at this point, I'm like, okay, God, I don't understand how this went into an obsessive situation, because at first, when I saw that it was this man, I rejected it so much, because I'm like, I cannot be with this person of this caliber, and I cannot be with this, because I don't want to be, first of all, the person was in the public eye. And so I'm like, I don't want to be in a marriage with someone in the public eye. I just wanted a simple life. I just wanted a simple and okay life, and I'm doing my thing. I don't want to be in a process or in a place where I'm famous and people are like knowing my name and knowing things about me and stuff like that. I just didn't want it. So at this point, I'm questioning, like, has this now moved into a place of obsession? It didn't make any sense to me, I was just like, I didn't want it in the first place, so like, why is it now this? Like, it's not my fault. It felt like it was my fault, and I'm like, it's not my fault that this went into this, because this is who I was seeing. So I didn't even like this person before I started to see him on TV, in my dreams. I didn't like this person before I started to see anything about him. So how did it move from not liking someone at all to like an obsessive thing? And so those were the questions that I was just asking God. Like, it just felt at that point, I was just feeling like it was my fault, and I know that it wasn't. So I was just like struggling with those things. Like, he comes up to me and tells me that these dreams were being manipulated, and so I had so many questions about that. And so over the months, God gave me answers to some of my questions, and God was like, they were being manipulated because that's something that I didn't believe in the first place, and I didn't know to pray against them. So now it was affecting me and I didn't know to say no. But God was putting people in places to tell me, because the friend that I went to visit in Montreal, like, she just opened a video once and she's like, God said she feels like God is leading her to show me this video. And the video was showing me something about the spirit of divination, right? So I'm like, something clicked in my spirit that, okay, maybe this is something I should look into, right? But before she even showed me that video, I was already getting some word from God. Like, I was questioning it, but I was getting like, God, could this be like some form of manipulation? And then maybe like way before that, I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was going back and forth with me about dreams and how dreams could be manipulated. And I was like, no, I don't feel like it could be manipulated in this way. Like, I don't feel like the devil has that much power to manipulate dreams in this way. You know what I mean? So her and I were going back and forth, and then here I am later, months later, like maybe even a year later, and this girl is telling me again about, you know, God leading her to show me a video about this. And here I am again later, getting on another platform where I hear that dreams could be manipulated in this way. So God had been putting people in places in my life to show me and to tell me that actually maybe your dreams are being manipulated, and maybe you should look into it, and maybe you should pray on it, you know. But because I believed so strongly in that opinion that I had, I didn't know enough to pray on it or to pray against it. And at this point, I was just like, okay. And then somehow it moved into a place of obsession. But I rejected that so much, because I was like, I felt like I was getting tortured by dreaming about this one person, you know. And then God explained to me again that, like, he wanted me to know a little bit about this person by like watching their videos on, because obviously I said this person is in the public eye. So he wanted me to, you know, see the watch about this person on TV, and to like check out some of his personalities, and then show me a little bit about the person as well. So my dreams, some of them were God showing me this personality, and showing me a little bit about the character of this person. And so God wanted me to see for myself through like these videos, and through these TV programs about this person. And then when I eventually met the person, God was like, fine, like, you see for yourself the person that you are dreaming about. And all of these things were happening, and I did not know that this was God just telling me to beware of getting into this type of relationship, because it started as a dreams being manipulated, and now it's going deeper into something else, right? And so God was trying to use people to warn me, but I wasn't always like, because my head was so noisy. And this is why I keep telling people about having peace of mind, and God comes with peace, and being in a restful place mentally, because that's the only time, or the only place you will hear God speak to you, because God speaks in a still small voice, right? So this is why I tell people God comes with peace every time. So my head was so noisy, and I wasn't hearing, and I wasn't seeing some of these things I should have been seeing. And then it just went on into like a deeper process that I didn't need to go in the first place. God didn't say that there wouldn't be storms and there wouldn't be chaos, but God promised that he will be with you through those times, right? And so that's kind of my experience. God was over the months, because when God gave me instant healing when we were praying those prayers, when I started to question God about some of those things, God was like, don't worry, I will heal you. And this is what finally gave me peace, because I was in so much pain, and I was questioning, and I was like feeling like I was being manipulated and betrayed by God too, actually, because I was like, God, I prayed to you this entire time. Why did you let this happen to me? But God was like telling me, he was like, it's okay, I'm gonna answer your questions with time, but right now you're gonna receive instant healing. That's what I kept hearing from God. Right now you're going to receive instant healing, but I'm going to answer all of your questions with time. So don't worry, just trust me. So those things gave me peace. And I remember After that phone call, I just decided, I just told my husband, I was like, I want to sleep and I just want to relax because I felt so drained and so exhausted, and I just slept. And then he was telling me later on that once you sleep and you wake up, that's like God performing a surgery on you and a deliverance on you, and that's like a final chapter of God doing that for you. So that was beautiful, and I went through peace from then on out. All these things made it very clear to me that God was sending me my husband through him. So I really just, it's a whole experience, and I just felt like I needed to share this because I know that there's a lot of people that could be going through this right now, and they're deep in the process, and maybe they could be affected by the spirit of divination and by the devil manipulating their dreams and you know, thinking it's God. Because also some of us could have put our dreams over God speaking to us, or some of us could have just, you know, gotten into it without thinking to pray against it, you know. So if this is you and if this is for you, then just remember that God is with you through it all, and just use this as a way to look within yourself and to see if this is something that you need to pray against, right? And so this is why I'm sharing my story, so that people can also watch out for these things. So I think throughout the whole time, God used all of that to explain why some of these things were happening to me. And I think one more thing that I want to mention is that when God was showing me the personality of that other man that I thought it was, God showed me a lot about his personality, both good and bad. And so I focused on the good, and I love the fact that, you know, I was seeing some of these good things. So there were a lot of those characters of that person that I was seeing that I told God specifically that I did not want in a man, right? And I was seeing that in those visions about this man consistently. And one main thing was pride and ego, right? And I saw that a lot, and I was like, God, like, I do not want, in fact, I felt repulsed by them even in those dreams, right? And so I was like, God, like, that is not the man that you promised me, because the man you promised me would align with what I desire, you know. And you know, I went through a process where I also worked through my, you know, ego and stuff, like the pain and stuff from childhood and how I was raised. So I was very intentional about focusing on my ego and my pride, you know. So here I am in this dream, and it's seeming that God is sending me to a man that has a lot of ego and pride, and I don't want that. So I had to go back to God with some of these concerns. And so because I didn't know my dreams were being manipulated, I wasn't able to like clearly like see these things and to have some clarity on them. But that was a huge thing, because when I actually met this man in person, he had a lot of ego and pride, and that's what repulsed me, because I'm like, even if you are in the public eye, or you wanted to whatever it is, right? Like, at least we have met a few times, we have had several conversations. At least you should speak. You should be able to respond to someone that's reaching out to you, because a lot of those messages that I was sending, those DMs, a lot of them was me just getting led, feeling led to send them. It's not anything about us or anything. It was just mostly about encouragement and, you know, encouraging you in your journey and you know, all of those things, spiritual things, you know, that I felt he needed in that season of his life, right? But I didn't know what he was going through. I didn't know anything about that. But the fact that he just, that action of, you know, him not responding to me, even after everything that happened, I even at the end of the day sent a DM, and I was just like, well, here it is. Somebody told me that, you know, it's best if I just send this out to you to just put it out there, because I've kind of been working like alone on this. Now it's okay to put it out there and be like, you know what, this is what I see about you. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but if I'm getting it and you're not getting it, then it's not gonna work out. So I sent him a DM stating that you also have to see this, and I also have to see this before anything can work out, right? So I sent that DM, and I said a whole lot of stuff about my process, and I was like, you go to God and you ask God, you question God too. So this is not just on me anymore. Now it's on you to do the work to ask God about these things, because I'm here and I'm very like exhausted by this whole process, right? And I sent him all those things and he still didn't message me and he still didn't respond to me. So for me, what I was getting from those dreams were ego and pride. And then see, I'm here in the physical and it's manifesting as ego and pride, right? Because if we've met, you should have at least found a way to respond to me and not just, ignore it. Because even when we met in person, he was also like scrolling through his DMs and seeing my messages. And, I even told him I sent messages and he never responded. So for me, that was ego and pride. And God was just warning me about them and warning me about them. So I'm so glad that I listened, because I always told God that in my process, I do not want a marriage with a man that has ego and pride. I do not want a marriage with a man, a conventional marriage with a man. I want a man that you have placed in my life. I want a man that is straight from you. I want a man that is spiritual and godly and hears from you and takes messages from you and takes advice from you and trusts you and knows you for himself. And God doesn't have any ego or pride. So why should I be open to a man that has ego and pride? So all of those things were adding up to me. And even the Bible says, by their fruits you shall know them. If his fruits are showing of something, you should be able to understand what it's telling you, and you should look at his fruits. Like, what does this man represent? What do people see him as? What do people take him for? What is his character? How does he treat people? How does he treat himself? By their fruits you shall know them. And so everything eventually connected for me and it clicked. And so when this happened, when I met my husband and when we eventually decided, it didn't have to take so long before I realized that this man was my husband. It didn't have to take so long before everything clicked for me, that because the fruits that he was displaying was already showing that he is a good man. And it was already, the fruits that he was displaying was already showing that he is my husband. He is everything that I prayed for. He is everything that was prophesied to me that was going to happen. He's everything that's now manifesting in the physical, because God is a God of the physical as well as a God of the spiritual. So this is just an encouragement to everybody listening here, that just focus on God and trust God. And whatever you ask of God, he will give you. Whatever you ask, the Bible says, ask and you shall receive, knock and you shall find, seek and the door shall be opened unto you. So whatever you ask, trust me, God is hearing you and he's doing it and he's working it out for your own good. I just want to say thank you again for watching my video. I am so happy that you're here. And if you're here today watching this, then this message is for you. And again, don't forget to check out at Okey Love. Again, I'll put the link in the description box below. At Okey Love on all platforms, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter, We are very active on those platforms, so please check us out, and the rest of my story is gonna be on there. Thank you so much again for listening, and have a lovely day and a lovely week. Bye.